Okay. What's up, guys? This is D Bell here, your nomadic pathfinder. We're starting up something new. We're looking at trying to begin a podcast, and we're using YouTube to do it. I've created a few podcasts in previous times, previous years, some with others, some by myself, but I thought this would be a great time to jump right on this bandwagon, the trend of YouTube, because it's created a new podcast feature. Now, that being said, I'm not sure what this podcast is actually going to turn into. I just decided to jump in there feet first, not really having a true agenda to what I'm going to speak on, but I do have a few different things that I like to do that I can share with you. I do a lot of creating. I do a lot of print on demand. I do a lot of entrepreneurial stuff. So perhaps you and I together, we can share in this journey. But I thought, what better time to jump in there and just document a journey? So that's really what I'm doing. I'm documenting a journey and I'm taking you along for the ride. So if you're willing to jump in there and see what I learn when it comes to, first of all, YouTube podcasting and the benefits that it might provide you or I, then that's going to be what you want to, follow this channel for. This channel I am creating, by the way, is called Audio Algorithm, and it's brought to you by Discovery Branding. That's the brand consultancy that I run. And in that, I do a lot of different types of things when it comes to my entrepreneurial endeavors. So you can take this ride again with me. But today, what we're going to talk about YouTube podcasting. And to be honest with you, just being forthright, it's brand new. I don't know a lot about it. So I thought perhaps the best thing for us to do today is to discover what YouTube itself is saying about its podcasting platform. So what we really want to know is how YouTube podcasting works. That's what we're going to talk about first of all. So let's go right into the community of YouTube creators. YouTube has actually put out some information about it. I'm going to read it right to you and just give you some thoughts about it. You can go into this particular website, YouTube creators, and find out a lot of these things for yourself. But hey, since you're watching, why don't you just let me read them to you, and you can formulate your own opinion about what you think about what it says. Should you start your own YouTube podcast? Should you not? It's a good question. So we're going to explore that. So again, first things first, how does YouTube podcasting work? That's what you want to know. Well, here's what YouTube has to say. It says this: YouTube is one of the most popular platforms for podcasts with a vast global audience of over 2 billion active users. Podcasts on YouTube help creators expand their reach and build their community while providing monetization opportunities. Some of the creators that it acknowledges is Nick, I want to say is Viall, Viall. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, forgive me. Jay Shetty, which I'm familiar with, and Jay Williams, which I am also familiar with. But in that introduction that YouTube gives us about its podcasting platform, one of the things kind of strikes me because I thought actually this was new. Here it is. This is March the 18th, 2023. I don't know. Maybe it's not as new as I thought, or maybe it is. However, it mentions that it is one of the most popular platforms for podcasts. That makes me think that it may have been around a little while. I actually thought this was something new. Maybe it is. Maybe that's just something they're saying because it does reference the 2 billion active users, which that's that's no secret that it has that many users, but it's almost as though YouTube is saying this is something that is already being used by a lot of people. Maybe it is. Okay. So if that's true, then cool. All right. If not, maybe they're just using it for hype. I don't know. However, this is something that I really like that it's talking about. It says that it will help creators expand their reach and build their community. So, what that makes me feel is that YouTube is actually going to give some priority to podcasters because of what it's saying here about expanding reach and building community. That probably means it will give your podcast some love. As far as the algorithm is concerned, I'm assuming. I don't know for sure, but I'm just assuming that this is the case. If so, that would be a good reason to start doing it. And as we go along in this podcast, I'll share some thoughts about why it would be beneficial to do so, because I do have some thoughts about it. Just because the very nature of podcasting itself, everyone knows it's a great form of communicating with an audience, but by it being on YouTube as an option, it makes me think that it will allow you to really lock in as a one-on-one type of influencer, giving that type of communication to your audience in this podcasting format. I think that is what's going to happen. But here's something that's very, very interesting to me, because it says it will do all of these things for you as a creator while providing monetization opportunities. Now, that is cool. Now, if you could have a monetization opportunity by simply putting your podcasts on YouTube, well, that is definitely worth you putting your content on there. Very, very much so. Now, what that monetization opportunity is going to look like, I currently don't know. Maybe it's out there. I'll probably need to look it up and find out. But I will get back to you on that. What are the monetization opportunities that YouTube is offering for its podcast creators? Maybe you know what that is. If you do, leave a comment below and let me know, what are these monetization opportunities, if you know, specifically for podcasts. Is it the same as putting a video onto YouTube, or is it something else? It's interesting. So let's go on here. This is the next type of information that it gives about the podcasting platform. It says that YouTube has a lot to offer podcasters that are new to YouTube and to YouTube creators. So it looks like YouTube's trying to make a push to get people who are not currently creators on the platform to switch and come over to the platform for their podcasting content and putting it out there, taking advantage of all the users that are currently on YouTube. Maybe that's it. So, if that is the case, then again, I think they're going to give some love. I really do. I think they're going to give some love to people who actually decide to do this. So that would be one of the benefits of this type of YouTube podcasting, which is something else I wanted to address. So let's talk about some of the benefits then. And it has right here on this page some of the benefits of YouTube podcasting. What do you think they are? You probably have some things in mind that you think would be beneficial to start your podcast, but here's what YouTube has to say about why start a podcast on YouTube. Number one is the reach. Yes, YouTube is saying that the reach that you will get by starting a podcast on their platform will be an incremental and global audience that you will be able to reach. And it says that it will do so via the search and discovery systems that YouTube currently has in place. This way, it says you would be able to build an engaged community. Now, when I hear that, what it tells me is a couple things. Number one, it says it will be incremental. So, in other words, it will be kind of like a step by step process that they will open up to podcasters to reach a wider audience. It doesn't sound like they're going to open up the floodgates. Of course, probably unless you're one of the big YouTubers and they already know you have the huge audience where they'll already come in and listen to what you have to say. But as far as someone like you and me, perhaps who may not have as many or no followers, like this particular podcast is brand spanking new. At the time of my recording this, I have 0 followers. So if you're watching this and I have 0 followers or not that many followers, I'm taking this opportunity to say, hey, follow this podcast. You know, I gotta do that like everyone else. Follow, be sure, subscribe, follow, whatever it is that you do to listen in and keep abreast of your favorite creators. Why not do that here at the audio algorithm? How about that? Now, that being said, it also mentioned a search and discovery system. Now, that actual statement there is linked to another page, the search and discovery system. Now, you probably are wondering, what is the search and discovery system? I am wondering that too. Well, what that is, it's the algorithm. That's it. The algorithm. Now, this particular algorithm, as I go to the page, is really dealing with video. It looks so. What it makes me feel or know, based on what they're saying, is that the same way that they have an algorithm for the search and discovery of your videos, they also have an algorithm for the search and discovery of your podcast, which apparently will cater to podcasters versus your normal video producing content creators. That's what I'm assuming. Okay. So it will have its own recommendations, obviously, based on podcasts. It will have a system that sees how your podcast performs and give you some love based on how it performs, obviously. It will take all these factors into place, including external factors like it does with videos. So with videos, and by the way, the podcast that you listen to, they encourage it to be a video. Obviously, it has to be a video at this point for you to even put this out there, as far as the YouTube podcast is concerned. But those external factors include topic interests, competition, and it says here seasonality. So I know what topic interest is. That's how many people worldwide are interested in watching your videos. That's what the topic interest is. Okay. What type of appeal does it have? Does it have a broad appeal? Does it have an appeal that can change over time according to YouTube? That's what topic interest is all about. They take that into account when they think about or put into the algorithm um, who they allow to see your videos. Obviously, that's going to be similar in the podcast that you put out there. They also take into account the competition as an external factor as well. So that will be determined by, you know, other videos, or in this case, other podcasts, obviously. So there will be metrics that you can check out, obviously, and they will take into account to determine who sees your or listens to your podcast or sees them. And then it says seasonality, and that is, as the word implies, seasonal. So they actually apparently look at what's taking place with your podcast in different seasons of the year. And that also is a determining factor in the algorithm, apparently, because that's what it says here. And that's an interesting point. So these are some of the things that will influence, obviously, your podcast. Now, there may be other things that influence the podcast, but these will definitely probably be a part of that algorithm. Now, let's go into the second aspect of this YouTube podcasting and some of the benefits of it, which is monetization. So, there is a brief statement about monetization of your YouTube podcast. YouTube itself says this, and I am quoting it for you. Earn with our suite of ad monetization solutions. Go beyond ads with tools like channel memberships and shopping. And that's all it says. So when it comes to monetization, there's obviously a lot of information on that out there. But the only thing that I'm thinking about here is the fact that you have the ability to monetize. That's really what I think about. So there is a YouTube partner program, and there are obviously benefits to that, but it's interesting to see how this is going to be beneficial to you as a podcaster. Now, I don't see anything specific on their monetization page about how to make money on YouTube. It is linked to that statement that I just read to you. And in that statement, it really just talks about the YouTube partner program and the multiple ways to earn, which is, it says ad revenue and YouTube premium. Okay. So that is something to think about. It also mentions a few other things here, actually. So let me keep going. It talks about super chat and super stickers. I don't know if that's a way to actually make money, but it is another way to connect with the live streams and so forth. Now, this may not have anything to do with the podcast element. I don't know. But these are just different ways to monetize. Okay, so I'm just mentioning these because I don't know exactly what's going to be relevant to your podcasting content, right? But you have YouTube shopping. Okay, so you can sell products and merchandise directly to your fans and to your audience. Channel memberships. Okay, so you can offer benefits and loyalty badges, and you can have people pay to be a member. They have a YouTube brand connect. So this is connecting with brands to partner for branded content campaigns. And you have then what they say is called super thanks. You may know about all this, but this is new to me. Okay, so bear with me if you already know. But super thanks provides another source of revenue while giving fans a fun way to express their gratitude for your content. Now that I see that, I know what that's talking about. Okay, so some viewers can actually express their thanks by giving some revenue to the content creator, which is cool. All right. So that's that with that. Okay. Now, another aspect of the YouTube podcasting, as far as the benefits of it, is the audience analytics. So, what YouTube is saying is that you can use the YouTube analytics to gain insights about your audience, their preferences, so that you can optimize your content. So, this is just like regular YouTube video creation, obviously. These are all instruments of just putting a video on YouTube. So thus far, I'm not really sure how the podcasting on YouTube is different than regular YouTube videos, other than it looks as though they're going to give your podcasting some love, you know, because you're using it. I'm not sure yet, but we will all find out. So if you put your podcast on, I'll put my podcast on. We'll find out. By the way, if you start a YouTube podcast, be sure to share in the comments what your YouTube podcast is. I don't know if it's okay to link to it in the comments. You tell me. I'm not sure. If it is, feel free to do so. If not, send me a message. Okay, and I'll actually shout out your podcast if it kind of aligns with mine, or even if it don't. Hey, I'm just going to give you a shout out just because you took the time to listen this far, and you listen to what I'm saying, and then you did communicate with me what your podcast is. So that being said, if you do have a podcast on YouTube, and if you can communicate what that podcast is with me so that I can shout you out, okay? Let's start off this particular podcast the right way by helping each other. How about that? So we're going to do that. All right. So go ahead and do that. Now let's keep going. So here is um, something that we can think about that YouTube brings out in this community page. It actually quotes a creator, Bailey Sarian. Maybe you know Bailey Sarian. I don't. Sorry, Bailey. I just don't know who that is, but this is what she had to say. She says, on YouTube, it feels like I'm talking with you, not at you. I'm addressing you one on one or one to one. You're not a fly on the wall, which is how it might feel on other platforms. So I like this comment because I think that this is one of the benefits of putting a podcast on YouTube versus putting just video content on YouTube. I know when you create a video, you want it to feel like it's a one on one experience with those of your audience, but somehow it's really not, just because of the nature of the video. It's not in a podcast type of, necessarily a podcast type of format, right? This way, though, with the podcast, I kind of agree with Bailey here. It gives you the opportunity to make it one on one. Like everyone knows it's one on one. When people come to your channel, they're going to know this podcast, this is a one on one conversation with me and you. And think about it. As I'm giving you this information now, does it not feel like a one on one discussion? Right? I'm giving you one on one what this information is, right? So this will actually be beneficial to help you to connect on a deeper level, I believe, with your audience because of the opportunity of having that one on one dialogue with your audience. So, yes, I do agree with what she is saying. Now, YouTube is saying that you can increase your podcast reach with video. So, in order for me to put this podcast out here on YouTube in their podcast platform, I literally had to open up another software and make a video. So, it's not really necessarily about the video quality. It's more so about being able to take what I have to say, the audio of it, and putting it in a video format, which you can do. You don't have to get on video to make a video, right? You can use software that will take your audio and make it into a video, especially now with AI, with Chat GPT. There's before AI has become so popular, though, there's been many ways that you can take an audio and create a video out of it. But now it's even easier, okay, with AI and the different resources that are out there. Really easy to do. So what this is saying here on the YouTube community creators page is that you can increase your podcast reach. Now, I'm going to tell you what they say here. They say that video allows more intimacy with your audience, benefits accessibility, through body language and lip reading, and allows you to get creative with visual storytelling elements. So I'm not sure I understand the intimacy with the audience part because that's what we just talked about. So that's true, what YouTube is saying. As far as accessibility, benefiting accessibility through body language and lip reading, I don't know. Maybe, is that a thing? Do people sit there and read lips? And somehow, what accessibility are they talking about? I don't know. But okay, apparently that's something. It's a thing. Okay. Maybe you feel, or your audience feels more accessible to you because they can read your lips. I don't know. is, is that what it is? I have no idea. Maybe it is. Okay. But definitely body language though, I understand that. Body language is a big deal. People kind of they feel your energy, your vibe. And I guess lip reading is part of body language. Okay. Sure. So we'll go with that. All right. But that's what they say here. And then, of course, it says you could get creative with visual storytelling elements. Now, that part I'm not sure about. Maybe there are some elements that YouTube will provide or that they have that I don't know of yet because I have not even uploaded this video to the podcasting platform as I'm speaking to you. But maybe once I upload it, there will be some visual storytelling elements that is waiting on me. I don't know. We'll see. If so, as I'm saying this, you'll see something. Okay? What it is, I don't know, but it'll be like, if it is, it'll be a mind blowing experience for all of us. If not, you won't see anything at all. How about that? Okay? But anyhow, again, back to what I was saying here, or what YouTube is saying here. Here's the next statement about increasing your reach with the videos on the podcast platform. It says, our analysis found that podcasts on YouTube with video, particularly those featuring hosts on camera, are performing better than podcasts with just static visuals. Now, that's an interesting statement. Now, they have done apparently an analysis on this particular aspect of having a podcast on their platform. They've studied it, obviously. So, that being said, this is probably the way you'll want to go. So, as we mentioned earlier, or I mentioned earlier, you can use other software to create videos with you not on them. But what YouTube is actually saying here is that your podcast will perform better, according to their analysis, if you are on them as a talking head, kind of like what I'm doing right now. So that's an interesting statement. But again, you may not have to do that. Maybe you'll have greater success doing it a different way. But this is what they've already found out. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. But of course you can. There's nothing wrong with it. But it's just something to consider. But this is what they say. And they say, hey, you don't want to be on camera? Don't worry. There are plenty of ways to turn audio into video. That's what I was saying earlier. So this is some data that was based apparently on some from Google, January 20 to June 2021, apparently, if I'm reading this right. So all this information that I'm giving you here. So we'll keep that in mind, right? We'll keep that in mind. It does say it as a caveat. As such, it may not account for every such video available on YouTube. So, you probably want to know what it's talking about. It says based on the top 10% of videos by watch time with, and it has this in quotes, podcast in their title. Classification as podcast videos was based on public data such as headlines. So it's saying apparently, this is going back to what I was talking about earlier, I think. I'm trying to see where this is referencing to. It does have an asterisk here, but I do not see where it's referencing to. But apparently, when you have videos with podcast in the headline, apparently it does better. That's what I'm getting from this. But it is right underneath the information that I just read to you. So that's an interesting thought. And that's from Google data. So who knows? We'll see. We'll see how that turns out. So if you have the word podcast in the title, they're saying you do a little bit better when it comes to watch time if you have a video. So we'll see. It's an interesting thought. Here's some statistics as well. It says 80% of the top watched videos feature hosts on video. So that is interesting. So I think that perhaps this will actually affect the YouTube algorithm and how it affects podcasts. Okay, because they're already basically saying they're leaning to the fact that if you're on the video, that it's more watched. So perhaps they will create the algorithm, or they have the algorithm set up to where if you're on it, they might give you a little bit more love because they already know that people enjoy watching talking head videos with the hosts on them over other types of videos with just, static images or whatever. Okay, which makes sense. It makes sense because you prefer to see a live person, right? You can listen to people, but you prefer having the ability to see them, no doubt. Now, here's another fact that or statement that YouTube makes about it. It says there are 2x more views for videos that featured hosts on video compared to those that used a static visualization. So again, that backs up what was just said. So apparently you can get double the views if you're on them versus not being on them. So this is all statistics that they've rolled out. So it's interesting. It's interesting. They do have some other information that I'll go over in another episode. They have a getting started guide. Okay. So perhaps that's something that I will get into, I think, here soon in another. Yes, I know I will, because I'm looking at the PDF, which they have about podcasting on YouTube. The PDF is 67 pages long. So there is a lot to consider apparently with YouTube podcasting. So, hey, I have a lot here that I can help you to go through. You probably don't want to go through all of this stuff. You would probably prefer to have someone read it to you and talk about it, and then you can consume what you consume. So, hey, this podcast might turn into a podcast about YouTube podcasting. I'm an entrepreneur now. I'm going to talk about some entrepreneur stuff, so just so you know. But maybe the main aspect, the main topic will be YouTube podcasting, because they do have a lot here that you need to consider. Now, what that will do for me is will help me to become a better YouTube podcaster. In turn, me sharing it will help you become a better YouTube podcaster. How about that? You want to do that? We'll see how it goes. But they do have that. They do also have, in their getting started today box here, some do's and don'ts for posting full podcast episodes. Now, here's the thing. I don't know what's in this. I don't know if there's something I've done today that I shouldn't do. I don't know. I'm curious now. Now, this is a short one, but let's see here. Let's go through this a little bit, because I'm curious. You want to hear some of the do's and don'ts of podcasting on YouTube? What they say as far as your full episodes? Okay, let's look. It says, here we go. Okay, first thing is first. Content. It says, what should be in your show's full episode playlist? Here's a do. It says, do create a public playlist for each individual show that contains all of that show's full episodes published on your channel. Okay. Okay. So, in other words, the playlist for your podcast should be public, I guess. That's what it's saying. Here's a don't. Don't mix clips, different shows, or uploads from other channels within a show's full episode playlist. Don't break up seasons into separate playlists. So that's insightful. Okay. So if there are different shows, maybe, I don't know if this means of your own or other creators, I guess both. All right. So don't mix clips from different shows. It says or uploads from other channels. So this probably could be your channels or someone else's channels, obviously, right? Obviously. But don't put that, it says, within your full episode playlist. Okay? And don't break up seasons into separate playlists. So they want you to have all of your seasons in one playlist. an episode playlist. They don't want it broken up into separate playlists. So if you have season 1, season 2, season 3, season 4, they don't want those seasons into different playlists. Now I don't know why, but they don't want that apparently. That's a don't. So this is good information for us because maybe that's something you would have thought to do. I know I probably would have. When it comes to seasons, I probably would have thought, well, let me put these in a different playlist so it can be organized and whatever. They don't want that. And there's probably good reason because probably they want people to just kind of get lost in the playlist. Maybe. Okay. So we'll see. All right. Let's do one more. I won't do them all, but let's do one more. Organization. How to order your videos in the playlist. Do you want to know that? How to order your videos. Okay. It says, do order your videos as you want audiences to consume them. If they were starting from the top. So an example is, it says, oldest first if your show is narrative driven. Newest first if your show is topical. All right. So I have to think about what that actually means. Okay. If you know what that means, you put it in the comments. But it says, okay, you want them to be in the order, obviously, that you want audiences to consume them if they were starting from the top. So the top episode should be the video that you want them to consume first. All right, at the very top of the list. But it says you want the oldest first if it's narrative driven, but newest first if your show is topical. Yeah, I'm gonna have to think about that. If you have a thought on that, let me know. I love to hear what you think about that part of it. Okay? That's a do. Here's a don't. Don't forget to add each new full episode upload for your show to your playlist. And don't forget to check your playlist order. So you want to check your playlist order. Apparently, let's say your show is, let's call it topical. You may have to put that at the very top of your list. So instead of the newest show being at the bottom of the list, you may want the newest show at the top of the list. But if it's narrative driven, you want the narrative video at the top of the list and not the bottom of the list. I don't know if that makes sense to me. It still is not clicking in my mind. But you want to check the order of the playlist, how you want people to consume it. That's it. So we're going to stop that right there. There are a few others, like it says titling. I don't know what that. Oh, titling. So it's not. It's titling. Okay. It looks funny. To my defense, it looks funny on this podcast. I mean, a podcast on this PDF that I'm reading from. It looks funny in the font that it's in. But anyway, titling. How to name your playlist. Okay. So I might as well tell you that because it looks like it's important. It says, do use the exact name of your podcast show as your full episode playlist title. You want to make it easy for audiences to find you as they know you. They have a lot of that in bold. So this is obviously important. So do use the exact name of your podcast show as your full episode playlist title. Here's a don't for that. Don't add extra words to your show's full episode playlist title, including, and it has the word podcast, unless that is part of your show's name. So they do not want you to add extra words to your show's full episode playlist title. So we're talking about the playlist title, not the title of the episode, the playlist title. Okay? The playlist title. So that is what you want. You want your playlist title to be the exact name of your podcast. So that makes sense. So don't add anything trying to game them, for SEO, YouTube SEO or anything like that. Think you're going to get ranking some kind of way. They're saying don't do that. So if they see that, that's not going to help you, right? The algorithm catches that, it's not going to help you apparently. So we're going to stop that right there anyway. Yeah, and then they have the monetization as far as to get started. information, monetization with the YouTube partner program, which I went over a lot of that already. So I'm going to stop this episode right here. We've been going on for a minute, 40 of them exactly so far. So, hey, listen, if you have stuck with me this far, I have to, man, hey, appreciate you. Appreciate you, okay? Let me say that right away. You are the MVP for hanging in there with me, okay? I tell you what, I want to take a minute or two just to tell you what I'm going to get into next few episodes. We do have something that I've apparently um, in this getting started guide, we have a best practices PDF. That's what I was telling you about earlier. I am definitely going to get into that. Okay. And it might take several episodes to go through it because it is a large PDF. Like I mentioned, it's 67 slides on this PDF. So there is a lot to consider when you're talking about best practices as far as your podcast on YouTube. So I'm going to go through it just for the simple fact that I want to be one of the, you know, experts on it. How about that? I love to do that. And I will say this, I've always wanted to do something unique with audio that was very practical and useful. And it's something that I've always had a passion for, but I couldn't really find that real niche when it comes to audio like I wanted to. This may be something cool for me from that perspective. So I'm going to get into this, right? So even though this is on video, I'm really thinking of it in terms of audio, as far as podcasting is concerned. And I'm really looking forward to seeing, okay, how, even though we put this up on YouTube as video, how does this translate to the audio, right? Like, how do they, or is there a distinguishing aspect of the audio because it is a podcast on YouTube? So there's something for me to find out, and for all of us perhaps to find out. Maybe you know that already. If you do, put that below. I'd love to know what you think about that. And then also we'll get into some frequently asked questions. I'll be constantly scouring for people's questions when it comes to YouTube podcasting. And we'll try to answer some of those questions or pose those questions to you, and you can give your feedback, and we'll go over the feedback and things like that. But we'll get into that in other episodes. All right. So hopefully this first episode was something that was helpful to you. That's going to be my goal, is always to have something practical for you. I have literally 10 episodes or podcast episodes planned. So I don't know if it's going to go in the order that I've planned them, because in real time here on this podcast, you've seen that I'm going to pivot and we're going to talk about these best practices, because I feel like that's extremely important for you and I to discover and know, so that we can get the best possible experience in our podcast for our audiences, okay, and reach the most people. So it's best to know what those best practices are. And I like to talk. If you haven't learned that by now, but a lot of people do, right? A lot of people do. It's all about communication, right? In this world that we live in. But anywho, I want to thank you again. Hey, if you enjoyed this podcast, once again, please subscribe to it, follow it, whatever you got to do. And if you dig it, then by the way, there is a QR code on my actual podcast, logo. That QR code takes you to the Etsy store, which is a bunch of stuff that I've created, because I am a creative individual. And if you can scan that, cool. If not, that's cool too. If you can't scan it, then all you got to do is go to Etsy and then go to the Discovery Branding shop. Discovery Branding. That's the shop. A lot of cool stuff on there that I create, merch, different types of stuff that I think you would like. If you get in there, there's bound to be something in there that you think is cool. And also, I love to get your ideas for things that you would like to see created, or something like that, and have on merch, because that's another aspect of what I do. As an entrepreneur, I create merch and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, go check that out if you can. But hey, listen, I really appreciate you being here. I am D Bell. Discovery Branding. Audio Algorithm is the podcast. This is your Nomadic Pathfinder saying peace out.